everyone, David here, back again to review Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and this time it is for the 16th episode of the second season entitled Afterlife. And if you divide that by half, Half-Life 3 confirmed. No, it has nothing to do with Valve's game that is probably never going to happen. It deals with Skye. I actually messed up there. It deals with Skye finding herself in this place that Gordon took her at the end of last week's episode. And after all that stuff went down, Skye finds herself in this sanctuary within what kind of seems the Himalayas. At some point, I was expecting the villain from Far Cry 4 to make an appearance, but anyways, it looks like they're in the Himalayas. It kind of resembles that, and they even dropped that they might just be in China because this place has a name that's Chinese, but they simply just the direct translation means afterlife, and therefore that's what they decided to call the place. And the place is called Afterlife. And here, Skye finds herself in a sanctuary that holds all these people who are waiting to be chosen to go through that transformation through the mist, just like she did. And here, she gets introduced, as well as to us, she gets introduced to this character named Lincoln, who's going to be her mentor. She's going to show her the ropes, show her the place, guide her in a sense, and explain to her what's been going on. And so far, I'm liking this dude an awful lot. Much like Gordon, he's a very likable character, and a very welcome one that I feel like him combined with Gordon, it's almost like the show is pitting these likable characters against one another to where at the end we're going to have this humongous confrontation between Coulson and his old shield, Gonzalez and his new shield, and then the Inhumans, which we, for the most part like, Gordon and Lincoln included. And poor Skye is going to be caught in the middle of this entire thing. And that's going to be a little hurtful to see. Should it happen at the end of this season or sometime in the near future in the livelihood of this series. Now, a few very interesting things happen while Skye is in this place. One, she actually confronts Reyna right there and then. I thought that they were going to beat around the bush and have Reyna lurking in the shadows, tracking down Skye until Skye finally makes the realization that Reyna's in that exact same place, as well as possibly her father. But wasting no time and reminding you that the pace is a lot quicker and evenly balanced in the second season of S.H.I.E.L.D., she finds out about Reyna through a little slip-up with Lincoln and confronts her. And nothing that significant happens, like there's no battle, but it's still very interesting to see that they're finally seeing themselves for the first time since the event at the mid-season finale. And along with that, it turns out that Skye's mother, who I speculated that was her being with Gordon in that first scene that we get introduced to young Gordon dealing with his powers, and the one who embraced him was actually Skye's mother. Turns out Skye's mother is there once more, and she does not look like she aged a day in her life. Plus, we saw her being chopped up to pieces in that flashback that Cal was explaining, so what happened? Hopefully they explain that, but Skye's mother has returned. She not only gets reacquainted with her daughter in a very casual way to where she's hiding her emotions, but then when she goes to Cal through teleportation with Gordon, who visits him, and we have that really emotional scene between Gordon and Cal and how badly Cal wants to break out. There's blood on the walls and everything. That was a really good scene. But then later, Cal brings Skye's mother, and from the way they talk to one another, I feel like Skye's mother is the one that maybe we should be worried about a little more than Cal, because how she was able to tell him, no, you can't see your daughter, just so casually. I think something's up with her. Back in the States, Gonzalez and his team are still trying to crack down that box that Fury gave to Coulson with some valuable secrets, and whether or not Coulson is a threat will be unveiled as soon as that box gets open. However, to do that, this new S.H.I.E.L.D. are trying to work their methods of persuasion on Simmons, Fitz, and May, who is actually being held captive. And Gonzalez makes an offer to her by the end of the episode to join the board so that they can have some way to resolve the entire thing once Coulson gets taken in by Gonzalez's team. And we're left wondering whether or not May is going to join, so there's a level of ambiguity there. What was also kind of nice, however, was the little switch-up that Simmons and Fitz played on Bobby and Mac and that entire team by the end of the episode. It was a little convenient, it was a little... It's one of those scenes, one of those scenarios where you see a character do something that, sure, there was a sleight of hand there, but because of the way the camera is fixated on this one character, you have to suspend your disbelief that a person like Fitz was able to perform essentially a magic trick by switching those two boxes. What I did appreciate, however, was the fake out that Fitz and Simmons were put against each other, because it would have been a little detrimental to not only this episode but to this subplot about Fitz and Simmons after last week, where they joined hands together and they kind of looked at each other like, okay, now that the shit went down, we kind of want to reconcile a friendship, only for this thing to happen and for them to confront one another and be like, oh, you're betraying Coulson? No, we need to do this, because of S.H.I.E.L.D's integrity and blah, blah, blah. I was like, we're going back to this, only for the ending to reveal that this was an entire plot to sneak the box out of this new S.H.I.E.L.D. complex and out of the eyes of Bobby and Mac, and that was really clever. Meanwhile, Coulson and Hunter push their plan forward to figure out what's going on and to try to get Skye and his S.H.I.E.L.D. back from Gonzalez's team. And their first move is to go back to the cabin that Skye was in and try to get some answers from there. However, Coulson knows that in order to do that, he needs resources. He needs a backup. And so he triggers the alarm, purposely bringing Gonzalez's team of agents there. And what was clever, but it was a little silly, but not too. It didn't ruin the momentum, and it was still a nice little laugh of having them play the cards and turning out for it to turn out to be a hologram. But the thing that made this subplot really cool was the return of Deathlock from season 1, which was nice. I wish maybe, hopefully in future episodes, we'll see an explanation as to how Coulson has been keeping communications with him. And it could be explained rather easily, it's not too far-fetched. But he does somewhat come out of left field, but don't get me wrong, seeing him pull down that giant ramp and taking out those agents and helping these guys out was very nice, very endearing, a definite throwback to season 1 and how little tiny Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was starting off, and now look what it's become. And bringing back Deathlock, not only is it essential to keep a level of continuity, but still he's a very cool character, a very sympathetic character, and so to bring him back to have a really badass role in this, and hopefully one that sticks around for at least a couple of episodes before he has to be pushed to the side because his job is done. So now Coulson and Hunter go after their next target, who is probably the only, like Hunter put it, only bad option to help them out, Grand Ward. And I'm definitely looking forward to see how that plays out, considering their last encounter. I mean, that's going to be crazy. And Agent 33 is with him, so that's going to be rather nice and very awesome to see. I did really like this week's episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I gotta admit, it was a little... it was much more calm and level-headed than previous episodes. And because of that, I didn't like it as much, but it was still a nice episode that introduced an awful lot of interesting things, but it just, it comes with the territory. Whenever you're watching a show, even some of the greatest show, like Breaking Bad, or I haven't watched it, but I'm sure The Wire, which a lot of people love, had its episodes where they weren't bad, they were still good episodes, but they just weren't good as the other ones. And this is definitely one of those episodes where there's cool things to pick apart and digest and speculate, such as Lincoln dropping the elders name call there, where, who are these elders, why does Gordon need to ask permission, and hopefully the preceding episodes will answer that. But it's just one of those episodes that, okay, we move from point A to point B without anything, huge happening, but still, it's a likable, much like the characters we got introduced to here, like Lincoln. It's a likable episode that I can definitely appreciate. So for that, I give Afterlife a solid 8 out of 10. I liked it an awful lot, but not necessarily one of the strongest episodes of this latter half of season 2. But it's one of those where they couldn't have done anything better. It's one of those what can you do episodes where you're like, okay, you gave us interesting stuff, but you can't deliver too many twists and turns because then you're gonna start diluting them. So it just comes with the territory. So let me know your guys' opinions on this week's episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I'll see you guys later.